Black CEO kicked out of her own hotel. 15 minutes later, she fired the entire staff. It was supposed to be a quick surprise visit. No entourage, no cameras. Just a successful black woman walking into her own luxury hotel unannounced, dressed casually, blending in with the evening crowd. But the moment she stepped through the gleaming marble entrance, the front desk sneered, the manager frowned, and within minutes, she was being escorted out accused of trespassing, of not belonging. They didn't know who she was. But 15 minutes later, they found out. And the entire hotel staff paid the price. What happened inside those walls after that moment wasn't just justice. It was a lesson every business in the world would remember. Stay with this full-length story, packed with jaw-dropping twists, corporate betrayal, a secret identity, and the ultimate boss-level clapback. You won't believe how it ends. Subscribe now for more unforgettable stories that flip power, shatter prejudice, and celebrate voices that won't be silenced. Real drama, real justice. Every time. A cool Friday evening swept over downtown Chicago. The golden lights from the towering buildings reflecting off wet pavement as guests entered the prestigious Kingston Luxe Hotel and Spa, a five-star marvel known for its elegance, exclusivity, and flawless service. Among them walked a woman in a plain black hoodie, ripped jeans, and sneakers, her afro tied back. No jewelry, no makeup, just quiet confidence in every step. Her name was Jacqueline Monet King, the sole founder and CEO of the Kingston Luxe brand, a hotel empire stretching across 4 countries. But tonight, she wanted no fanfare. She was in town for a personal reason. Mourning the anniversary of her father's death, the man who once cleaned hotel toilets for a living and inspired her to build a business where dignity came before profit. She stepped into the lobby, scanned the freshly polished floor, the walls adorned with framed awards, her awards, and smiled softly. But that smile faded fast. The front desk agent, a young white woman with heavy mascara and an even heavier attitude, immediately frowned. "Can I help you?" she asked coldly. Jacqueline responded politely, "Just here to check on something." The agent narrowed her eyes. "Are you a guest?" Jacqueline chuckled. "Sort of, I'm actually," but she didn't get to finish. A man in a stiff suit, General Manager Rick Dalton, stormed forward, eyeing her up and down like she was dirt tracked in from the street. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This lobby is for paying guests only." Jacqueline blinked. "Excuse me?" Rick smirked. "You're making some of the guests uncomfortable. You need to leave now. No questions, no ID request. Just pure, ignorant assumption." The security guard was called. Guests began to whisper. Phones came out. Jacqueline stood tall and calmly said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Rick scoffed. "Lady, just go." And that's when the hotel's fate changed forever. Without another word, Jacqueline stepped outside into the cold, pulled out her phone, and made one call to her executive assistant back in New York. "Activate Operation Clean Sweep," she said. "Effective immediately. I'm at the Chicago property." And yes, it just happened. Then she turned back around, walked straight in through the staff entrance with a digital override code, and marched into the surveillance control room. The countdown had begun. Within 15 minutes of that humiliating moment, a wave of emails had hit the inboxes of every department head. At the exact second, the front desk laughed about throwing out that homeless-looking woman. The regional director received an emergency call. "Sir, I think we just kicked out Jacqueline King." "The Jacqueline King?" the man shouted. The assistant on the other end whispered, "Yes, and she's already inside." Panic, utter panic. But it was too late. Jacqueline was in the control room watching the camera footage, listening to the audio recordings from lobby mics, pulling up HR logs. Her face was a mask of focus, no emotion, just data, just proof. What she saw enraged her more than being kicked out. A history of guests of color being downgraded, surveillance of employees mocking housekeepers, racial slurs buried in chat logs between night shift managers, employees pocketing tips meant for cleaning staff, and her beloved five-star property bleeding from the inside out with unchecked abuse. She pulled up the employee roster, cross-referenced it against complaint records, and began writing names down starting with Rick Dalton. She marched to the HR office, swiped her master keycard, and called an emergency all-hands meeting for every available employee, instructing security to block the lobby from the public for 1 hour. The hotel paused. Staff whispered. Rick came running and sweating bullets. "Ma'am, I didn't realize. I was misled," he stammered. "No," Jacqueline said, her voice like steel. "You saw a black woman in sneakers and assumed. She didn't belong. You judged. You humiliated me. You lied. And worst of all, you didn't even check." Then she pulled out a thick stack of termination letters she had just printed. "Rick Dalton, you're fired. Effective immediately." Rick collapsed into a chair, stunned. "This isn't fair," he shouted. Jacqueline didn't blink. "Fair?" she echoed. "Tell that to every guest of color you ignored. To every maid you disrespected." She looked around the room. "And I'm not done." Jacqueline addressed the silent crowd. Some staff bowed their heads in shame. Others crossed their arms in resistance. "This hotel bears my name," she said, pacing slowly. "It stands on the memory of my father, a man who scrubbed bathrooms so I could one day run a business that honored people, not stepped on them." Her voice rose with fire. "But what I see here is rot, entitlement, prejudice hiding behind professionalism, and today it ends." She handed her assistant a red folder. "Begin the purge." Within minutes, the red folder was opened, revealing names, titles, and offenses. Everyone who had been part of a discriminatory incident in the past 2 years, ignored complaints, uninvestigated assaults, theft from immigrant workers, was terminated on the spot. Those who remained were asked one question: "Are you here to serve with dignity or to dominate through power?" Those who couldn't answer were escorted out. Jacqueline made eye contact with everyone. "There are hundreds of people who would kill for the chance to work in a place like this. People who know what struggle looks like. I'd rather train new hearts than reward old poison." A soft cry came from the back. It was Lucia, an elderly housekeeper who had been cleaning rooms for 20 years. She stepped forward, sobbing. "You remember me?" she asked. Jacqueline smiled and hugged her. "You were the first person who told me I could be something more when I was cleaning rooms beside you." Lucia cried harder. "They used to laugh at me when I said you'd come back one day." Jacqueline whispered, "You were the only one who saw me." And then she turned to the stunned crowd. "From this day forward, this hotel will be a sanctuary, not a stage. If you don't believe in that, leave." Half the room cleared. And that was exactly what she wanted. Within 48 hours, the entire management team was replaced. Jacqueline personally interviewed every new hire. She brought in job seekers from local shelters, former veterans, single mothers, and graduates from historically black colleges. The new hotel staff looked like America: diverse, driven, grateful. Training programs were rewritten. A new empathy-first model was introduced. Each staff member was required to spend 2 hours shadowing a janitor, a receptionist, and a housekeeper before their first shift. The media went wild. Black CEO destroys her own empire to rebuild it better. A viral video of her firing. Rick in front of the entire hotel staff reached 50 million views in 3 days. And when she was asked on national television why she didn't just quietly reprimand people or handle it behind the scenes, she said one thing: when injustice is public, the correction must be louder. 1 month later, Jacqueline King hosted a press conference in the newly renovated hotel ballroom, standing beside her new team, most of whom had once been invisible. "This hotel is no longer a monument to wealth," she declared. "It's a symbol of transformation, built not by money, but by humility, pain, and redemption." Applause shook the building. Guests who once canceled their bookings came back with admiration. Review scores skyrocketed. And most importantly, the staff felt seen, loved, respected. Jacqueline walked the halls daily, greeting guests, thanking janitors by name. The hotel was not just back in business, it was leading a movement. Other corporations followed her example. Diversity audits became real. And the phrase, "Don't get Kingstoned," became corporate slang for what happens when a CEO shows up with receipts and changes everything overnight. Asterisk.